Their determination finally paid off on the morning of July 27, 2004, 15 days after the missing girls were first reported missing. That day, 3 K-9 officers from New Jersey, accompanied by their dogs, stumbled upon a shallow grave. It was immediately clear that they had found what they were looking for. A medical examiner later confirmed the heartbreaking discovery. This grave belonged to Brittany Gregory. Brittany Gregory entered the world on April 1, 1988, in the quiet community of Brick Township, New Jersey. By 2004, Brittany was 16 years old, a high school student balancing the responsibilities of her classes with the ups and downs of being a teenager. She and her older sister Brianna, who was 20 at the time, lived with their father, Joe Dunn, and his girlfriend, Lori Peterson. Their home was modest and located close to the school, which made life more convenient for the girls. Around that time, Brittany had been in a steady relationship for nearly 2 years with 18-year-old John Fitzgerald. John was generally liked by Brittany's family, and they had always considered him a respectful and polite young man. To outsiders, the couple seemed like typical teenagers navigating a first love. On the evening of Sunday, July 11, 2004, events took a tragic and mysterious turn. That day, Brittany's mother, Deborah, and her sister Brianna had driven to South Toms River, about 15 miles from the family's home, to visit Brittany's older brother and his wife, who had recently welcomed a newborn daughter. Around 8:30 p.m., Brittany called her mother on her cell phone. Her voice was noticeably emotional and unsettled, suggesting something was wrong. She asked if she could get a ride to her boyfriend John's house. Her mother explained that she was out of town and couldn't come right away, but reassured Brittany that Brianna would be home within the hour and could take her. Brittany agreed to wait, though her tone hinted at urgency. Roughly 45 minutes later, Brianna was free and tried to call Brittany back, but there was no answer. At first, she assumed her sister had either fallen asleep or had somehow found another ride to John's house. The following morning, however, Brianna returned home to find that Brittany was not there. More unsettling was the fact that all of Brittany's belongings, her phone, her purse, her ID, and even her makeup, were still in her room. It was completely unlike Brittany to leave without telling anyone, especially without her cell phone. Brianna immediately began reaching out to Brittany's friends, hoping someone had seen her. To her dismay, none of them knew where she was. Eventually, she called John Fitzgerald, expecting that Brittany might have gone straight to his house. John, however, insisted that he hadn't spoken with Brittany since earlier that Sunday morning, and had not seen her at all that day. His statement only added to the confusion. Lori Peterson, their father's girlfriend, returned home around 10 p.m. on Sunday night, and also confirmed that Brittany was not in the house when she arrived. The unease in the family grew stronger, and Brianna decided it was time to involve the police. At first, officers considered the possibility that Brittany might have left on her own, or chosen to spend time with friends. But Brianna quickly convinced them that this was out of character for her sister, and investigators agreed to treat the case seriously. The first step for police was to carefully examine Brittany's room and her belongings. Everything suggested that she had intended to come back. Her purse and phone were untouched. There were no obvious signs of forced entry or struggle inside the home. Detectives also interviewed everyone in the household, including Joe Dunn, Lori, and Brianna. All were cleared of suspicion early on. Next, the search expanded into the surrounding neighborhood. Officers knocked on doors, canvassed the area, and asked residents if they had seen or heard anything unusual that night. The Gregory family's house was located at the end of a street, and directly across from it was a wooded area. This detail caught the attention of investigators, as woods often provided shortcuts and hidden paths between neighborhoods. Most neighbors had not noticed anything strange, but one woman recalled seeing Brittany late on the Friday night before she disappeared. She reported spotting the teenager walking alone down the street after dark. While this was 2 days before Brittany vanished, the sighting stood out, because Brittany was known to be cautious and rarely went out without her parents' or sister's knowledge. The image of Brittany painted by her family, neighbors, and teachers was consistent. She was a studious, polite girl who spent much of her time at the library and wasn't known for breaking rules. During further questioning, Brianna revealed that Brittany's relationship with John Fitzgerald had become strained in recent weeks. The young couple had been arguing often, and on the day she disappeared, Brittany had been upset after yet another disagreement. She had expressed a desire to visit John that night, to make peace with him. When brought in for questioning, John explained that he and Brittany had argued on Sunday morning. He had been at the beach with friends, which upset Brittany because she felt left out. He confirmed that they had recently broken up, a decision he made after hearing a rumor that Brittany had kissed another boy at a party. Though he admitted he hadn't witnessed it himself, he believed it enough to start seeing another girl. According to John, Brittany struggled to accept the breakup. He last saw her on July 10th, the day before she disappeared, when she handed him a handwritten letter asking to reconcile. Detectives asked to see the letter, and John willingly handed it over. He appeared genuinely worried about Brittany's safety and cooperated fully with investigators. He even took and passed a polygraph test, after which police felt confident he was not directly involved. Still, he shared one crucial piece of information. Brittany often reached his house by cutting through the wooded area behind her father's property. This revelation redirected the investigation. Detectives began to consider the possibility that Brittany had attempted to reach John's house on foot that Sunday evening. His home was about a mile away, and if she chose the wooded path, she would have been walking alone after dark. There was a risk she could have become lost, injured, or encountered someone along the way. For 3 days, police and volunteers searched the woods, combing through every trail, clearing, and path that might connect the two neighborhoods. Despite the exhaustive effort, nothing was found. No clothing, no signs of a struggle, no personal items. The trail seemed to vanish completely. Just when the investigation appeared to stall, a new lead emerged. A woman came forward who had been at a nearby park with her brother on the night Brittany disappeared. The park was usually quiet and mostly empty that late in the evening, but she remembered seeing a distinctive vehicle, a Chevrolet pickup truck with unusual wheels. She even recalled the license plate number. When investigators traced the plate, they discovered the truck was registered to a 23-year-old man named Anthony Geiger. This new name would soon add a startling twist to the already troubling mystery of what happened to Brittany Gregory. To understand whether Anthony Geiger could have played a role in Brittany's sudden disappearance, detectives began carefully piecing together his past. What they uncovered immediately raised red flags. Investigators learned that Anthony was not just a random acquaintance. He had actually dated one of Brittany's older sisters, Bobby Jo. The relationship had ended only a month earlier, and the circumstances surrounding the breakup now took on new significance. When detectives spoke with Bobby Jo, she described her former boyfriend as a man who could be intensely jealous and overly possessive. At first, she thought his behavior was just immaturity, but over time, it became more troubling. The breaking point came when Bobby Jo noticed that Anthony seemed unusually interested in Brittany, who was much younger. His attention often went beyond what would be considered friendly or appropriate. Bobby Jo recalled moments when he seemed to watch Brittany a little too closely, or linger around her in a way that felt unsettling. Eventually, she grew convinced that Anthony had developed feelings for her teenage sister, and that realization prompted her to end the relationship. Other accounts reinforced her concerns. Several of Brittany's friends told investigators that they too had noticed Anthony's behavior. According to them, he sometimes tried to flirt with Brittany, attempting to start conversations that made her uncomfortable. The last time many of them saw him was at a casual lunch gathering, where once again Anthony directed unwanted attention toward her. Detectives, now deeply suspicious, brought Anthony in for questioning. Sitting across from investigators, he firmly denied having been anywhere near Brittany's home on the evening of July 11th. He insisted that he did not arrive in that area until the following day, July 12th, after news had already spread that Brittany was missing and the police search had begun. He admitted that he had often seen Brittany in social settings, such as gatherings and parties, but claimed their interactions had been friendly and nothing more. According to him, there had been no flirting, no inappropriate conversations, and certainly no secret meetings. Anthony also tried to emphasize the difference in their ages. At 23, he said, he fully understood that Brittany was too young for him, and that any relationship beyond casual friendship would have been wrong. He painted himself as someone who cared about her well-being only as a family acquaintance through his connection to Bobby Jo. To strengthen his defense, Anthony provided an alibi. On the night Brittany vanished, he said he was at home with his new girlfriend. Detectives followed up quickly, and the girlfriend confirmed his story. On paper, it seemed like a solid alibi, yet investigators were far from convinced. The timing of events, his proximity to Brittany's home, and the concerns voiced by both her sister and her friends kept him high on their list of persons of interest. Even with a confirmed alibi, the police could not ignore the possibility that there was more to Anthony's story than he was willing to admit. As days passed without new developments, the investigation once again seemed to stall. Detectives had interviewed dozens of people, combed through the woods, and examined Brittany's relationships, but nothing led directly to her whereabouts. Faced with this frustration, police decided to broaden their efforts. They reached out to the public through local news broadcasts, hoping that someone, somewhere, might come forward with information. Flyers with Brittany's photo were distributed throughout the community, and neighboring police departments sent additional officers to assist with the search. Brittany's parents, Deborah and Joe, also reached a point where they could no longer simply wait by the phone for updates. Driven by desperation and love for their daughter, they began their own grassroots search. Going door to door, they spoke with neighbors, store clerks, and anyone who might have crossed paths with Brittany on that Sunday evening. They handed out flyers, pleaded for tips, and asked for prayers. Their determination was admirable, but despite their efforts, the results were disheartening. Each conversation ended with the same painful reality. Nobody had seen or heard anything that could help bring Brittany home. The police, realizing that traditional methods had yielded little progress, decided it was time to circle back to the beginning. They returned to the Gregory household, the very place Brittany had last been confirmed safe. Something about the case did not sit right with investigators. During this renewed search, detectives carefully examined Brittany's bedroom again, looking for overlooked details. That was when they discovered something significant: Brittany's personal diary. Inside the diary was a handwritten letter, and the words within hinted at private thoughts and feelings that had not yet come to light. This discovery gave investigators a new lead and renewed determination to uncover the truth about what really happened on the night Brittany Gregory disappeared. After carefully reading Brittany's personal diary and the handwritten letter it contained, detectives realized that the investigation had to widen. Up until that moment, law enforcement had primarily focused on Brittany's friends, her boyfriend, and individuals outside the household. But the letter suggested that tensions, secrets, and possibly dangerous influences could also be coming from within the family circle itself. For the first time, police began to seriously consider whether someone close to Brittany, perhaps even under the same roof, might hold the key to her disappearance. Investigators launched a series of background checks on every member of the household, including her father Joe Dunn, his girlfriend Lori Peterson, and others who frequently visited. What they found was deeply troubling. The family home, which had once been portrayed as a safe environment, appeared to be the center of questionable activities that may have placed Brittany in danger. Neighbors revealed to police that Lori Peterson was not simply living quietly with Joe and the children. According to multiple accounts, Lori operated what she called a massage business out of the house. But everyone in the area seemed to know that it was not a legitimate massage parlor. She even handed out business cards in the neighborhood, making little attempt to hide what she was doing. Residents also told detectives that groups of people often gathered at the Dunn home, and many of those visitors appeared suspicious. Some were believed to be using illegal substances while on the property. This suggested that Brittany's living environment was far from stable. The situation painted a troubling picture: a teenage girl trying to live a normal life, while strangers, some of them unknown to the family, regularly passed through the home for Lori's services. Investigators began to theorize that one of these men could have noticed Brittany and possibly lured or taken her. Because of this new direction, the investigation expanded rapidly. More than 100 police officers were assigned to track down and identify everyone who had entered the house in the weeks leading up to Brittany's disappearance. It was a monumental task, as the list of names grew longer every day. Detectives interviewed clients, neighbors, acquaintances, and anyone who might have had contact with the family. Then, a week after Brittany was reported missing, on July 18th, the case suddenly took a shocking turn. Police announced that they had arrested a man on suspicion of murder. The news stunned not only the community, but also Brittany's family. After all, Brittany's body had never been recovered. The announcement was accompanied by a televised image of the suspect, and when Brittany's mother, Deborah, saw the picture, she immediately froze in disbelief. The man arrested was none other than 38-year-old Jack Fuller, Jr. He was not a stranger. He had been a family friend for 2 decades. Jack was a familiar face at birthdays, holidays, and other family gatherings. His children grew up alongside Brittany and her siblings, and one of his daughters was even engaged to Brittany's brother, who was at that time serving a prison sentence. To the Gregory family, Jack was practically extended family. Even with his arrest, Brittany's loved ones clung to hope. They wanted to believe that she was still alive, that somehow the authorities had made a mistake. As details emerged, it became clear how investigators had connected Jack Fuller to the case. It all started when police received an unexpected call from a man who had recently spoken with Fuller. According to this informant, Jack had casually confided in him about experiencing severe back pain. The reason for the pain, he allegedly explained, was that he had recently dug into sandy soil to hide something. Fuller reportedly went further, telling the man that he had buried a girl and even asked how deep a burial would need to be so that animals would not detect anything. The chilling nature of the conversation prompted the caller to contact police immediately. Detectives met with the informant and asked if he would be willing to wear a hidden listening device during another meeting with Fuller. Though it was risky, the man agreed. During their recorded conversation, Fuller made several alarming statements. He claimed he had hidden a girl's body in a remote location and boasted that it would never be discovered. Strangely, though, he never mentioned Brittany by name. As the conversation continued, Fuller made another startling admission. He said there was another person he wanted to get rid of, his own friend, a man named Tommy. Fuller hinted that Tommy knew too much about the situation. The statement alarmed detectives. If Fuller believed Tommy was a liability, then Tommy almost certainly had valuable information about Brittany's disappearance. Investigators immediately located Tommy and brought him in for questioning. At first, he denied knowing anything. He insisted he was not involved and claimed he could not help. But the detectives had a powerful tool. They played back the recording of Fuller talking about eliminating him. Realizing that his life could be in danger, Tommy finally agreed to cooperate. What he revealed changed the entire trajectory of the investigation. According to Tommy, on the evening in question, he and Jack Fuller drove together and stopped in front of Brittany's house. Jack said he needed to go inside to talk to her father, Joe. Tommy stayed in the car, waiting. A few minutes later, Jack returned. But he was not alone. With him was Brittany. She got into the back seat of the car. That detail placed Brittany directly with Jack Fuller on the night she vanished, and for detectives, it was the most significant breakthrough in the case so far. Brittany remained silent, avoiding eye contact, while Jack calmly told Tommy that he would take him home first. Tommy later recalled to detectives that when Jack dropped him off, Brittany, who had been sitting quietly in the back seat, unexpectedly climbed into the front passenger seat beside Jack. From there, the two of them drove off together into the night. The next day, Tommy noticed something unusual. When he and Jack met up again, Jack made no mention of the previous evening or Brittany's presence. Instead, he directed their attention to something seemingly ordinary: a car wash. What struck Tommy was not the stop itself, but Jack's behavior. Jack spent an unusually long time thoroughly cleaning his car, inside and out, something he had never been known to do. The attendant at the car wash even joked about Jack's sudden obsession with cleanliness. But instead of laughing it off, Jack reacted with hostility, warning the man to mind his own business or face consequences. Later, when news of Brittany's disappearance spread across the community, Tommy could not shake the thought of that strange day. Fearing the worst, he asked Jack directly what had happened to Brittany. Instead of offering reassurance, Jack grew furious, snapping that he had taken her home and that Tommy had better stop asking questions if he valued his safety. To Tommy, this angry outburst only deepened his suspicion that Jack was involved. The police were already circling in. Forensic experts soon found physical evidence that tied Brittany to Jack's car. Detectives had collected DNA samples during the investigation, and analysis confirmed that blood discovered inside the vehicle belonged to Brittany. Furthermore, When investigators learned that Jack had washed his car immediately after his last known encounter with her, they obtained the vacuum cleaner he had used. Inside, they uncovered tiny grains of sand that were clumped together with traces of blood. Tests confirmed without a doubt that it was Brittany's. Despite the mounting evidence, Jack refused to admit any wrongdoing. He denied harming Brittany and declined to provide information about what had happened. Detectives broadened their inquiry, speaking with many of Jack's acquaintances. Over and over they heard troubling descriptions. People painted him as a volatile man, capable of unpredictable behavior. Even though he didn't appear to hold steady employment, he always seemed to have money, which raised further questions about his lifestyle. Adding to the suspicions, investigators uncovered a critical lead from the night Brittany vanished. A patrol officer reported that he had seen Jack's car parked along a road bordering the woods. At the time, Brittany had not yet been reported missing, so the stop did not raise alarm. Jack explained to the officer that he was searching for a dog that had run into the woods. This information would later shape the search for Brittany's remains, focusing efforts in the wooded areas near where Jack had been spotted. Authorities launched an extensive search operation. Police units, specially trained K-9 teams, helicopters, and volunteers scoured the terrain, but for days, nothing turned up. Investigators speculated that Brittany might have asked Jack for a ride to her boyfriend's house that evening, unaware of the danger. Instead of taking her there, Jack first dropped Tommy home, and then deviated from the expected route, using the opportunity for his own intentions. Just as the investigation seemed to stall, another unexpected witness came forward. A woman contacted the police, claiming she might know where Jack could have hidden Brittany. She explained that she had once been closely entangled with Jack during a dark chapter of her life when she struggled with addiction. According to her, Jack had previously kept her isolated for months, during which time she had become familiar with many of his habits and secrets. He often took her to secluded places, and during one of those trips, he pointed out a spot near power lines, casually remarking that it would be the perfect place to bury someone, hidden enough that nobody would ever find them. At first, detectives approached her claims cautiously, but when she specified that the site was in Lakewood, with distinctly sandy soil, the puzzle pieces began to connect. They remembered an earlier tip. An informant had told police that Jack had complained about the difficulty of burying a body in sandy ground. Now, with two separate sources referencing the same type of soil, investigators knew they had a potential breakthrough. They organized a large-scale search of the area, which was located just 3 miles from Brittany's home. For several days, more than 100 people worked daily to comb through the dense forest on the border of Monmouth and Ocean counties. Their determination finally paid off on the morning of July 27, 2004, 15 days after Brittany was first reported missing. That day, 3 New Jersey K-9 officers, accompanied by their dogs, stumbled upon a shallow grave. It was immediately clear that they had found what they had been searching for. The medical examiner later confirmed the heartbreaking discovery. The remains were those of Brittany Gregory. With mounting evidence against him, Jack Fuller ultimately decided to pursue a plea deal after consulting with his attorney. Brittany's family, devastated but exhausted, agreed to the arrangement in order to avoid reliving every painful detail in a lengthy public trial. Brittany's mother expressed that she did not wish for Jack to receive the death penalty, explaining that such an outcome would be too swift, too easy. She wanted him to live out the rest of his days behind bars, forced to reckon with what he had done. During court proceedings, Jack attempted to explain his version of events. He claimed that Brittany had asked him for a ride to her boyfriend's house, and that along the way, they stopped so he could smoke. According to him, Brittany became upset, struck him on the arm, and shouted at him. He admitted that he reacted in anger, hitting her, and when he finally stopped, he realized she was no longer breathing. In his account, he panicked and decided to hide the body. However, his story did not align with the medical examiner's findings. Evidence showed signs of strangulation, something Jack had not acknowledged. Prosecutors argued that this inconsistency revealed the deliberate nature of his actions. On February 9, 2005, an Ocean County grand jury indicted Jack Fuller for murder. Months later, on October 18, 2005, he entered a guilty plea to purposely and knowingly causing serious bodily injury that resulted in Brittany's death. The following January, he was sentenced to 30 years in prison, without the possibility of parole. For Brittany's family, The sentence brought a measure of closure, though no legal outcome could ever undo the loss. Her mother's words lingered. She hoped that Jack would live with the weight of his choices every day of his life, a constant reminder of the pain he had caused.